or NGO type animal protection group that do lobbying. Also demonstrations, but in a nicer way if you want. The evidence that was found were tools that you can find in any household: mobile phones, t-shirts with logos, spray paints, which is a proof of their political activism. And the interesting thing also in this case is that this kind of Austrian criminal organization needs at least 10 people so that a criminal organization can be seen. And 10 people were arrested. They didn't all know each other. They definitely don't like each other all very well, but they are one criminal organization. This paragraph 278A, I was told by some of the activists I met in fall of this year, is designed to prosecute organizations regarded as organized crime. Most countries have laws like this, and specifically was used mostly like mafia-like organizations so far, and it was the first time it was used against political activists. Everyone was arrested in May, like I said, and they were actually in pre-trial detention for 3 months, except for one person who was released 1 month earlier, for no visible evidence other than, like I said, using encryption and similarly hard evidence. The similarity here may be same as for Andrei, is that there was no real evidence presented. The evidence that was used is mostly, if you want, ideological. They were accused of having been active around animal rights, and this was apparently enough to then start an investigation with a lot of surveillance and observation in the months before, which led to gathering of little bits and pieces that are the said spray paint or logos or involvement in demonstrations, etc. Andrei did a talk about his own case, I think in April or March of this year, and there was someone from Austria in the audience who then said, "My God, this is terrible that you have something like this happening in Germany. I'm glad that I live in a kind of innocent paradise where this would never happen." And in May he got an email by the same person saying, "Okay, I need to take this back because now we've also had the same thing in Austria." Like I said, everybody was released. The charges are still being investigated, and it's unclear what is going to become of these 10 people who have spent 3 months in prison, basically, for, I would say, well, not nothing, but not very much. The next case I would like to talk about took place in New Zealand, where in October of 2007, more than 300 special forces police did raids in dozens of houses all over New Zealand, mostly in Maori. This is the indigenous communities of New Zealand. This included, for example, a school bus of kindergarten kids that was stopped and searched with drawn weapons, 60 houses being searched, a complete village being shut off. And the police said this was the response to concrete terrorist threats by indigenous activists. The result was 12 arrests under the recently created anti-terrorism legislation. And after the arrests, the Solicitor General, which is the Vice State Prosecutor of New Zealand, actually decided that this could not be a terrorism charge with the evidence that was presented, but it was in the media and for the arrested first presented as, now you are being charged with the Terrorism Act. Arrests were being made nonetheless, but after 4 weeks, all 12 were released. Today, 8 people face charges under the Arms Act for alleged participation in paramilitary-style training camps, and 5 people are also charged with being members of an organized criminal group. Also needs to be said here that New Zealand passed a new anti-terror law after 9/11, and this was the first case that was being tried under this new anti-terrorism law of New Zealand. The terrorism charge was not accepted, but the Arms Act, if they would be judged by that, would lead to 4 years of prison, and the criminal organization would result in up to 5 years of prison. The current situation is that pre-trial hearings are going on, which is a legal, well, all countries have different legal situations, and many of the Anglo-Saxon countries have this thing where they have pre-trial hearings, and only then it is decided whether a formal trial is actually started in court. And this is going on in New Zealand now for months already, and the people who are concerned say that they expect the trial maybe to start in the end of 2009. Interesting detail I find is that, since I'm talking to a Chaos Congress here, that the police think that an encrypted chat room was used to organize the training camps, and this encrypted chat is to be found at http://voodooChat.net. And the police apparently didn't manage to break into this chat, and therefore thinks that this is a highly conspiratorial method to organize very dangerous things just because they couldn't open it. They have no idea of what actually was talked about or organized in this. Also in the raids, several servers were confiscated, with the result that different Maori websites disappeared and are not back online until today. The public attention in this case in New Zealand was rather high, obviously. I remember finding media reports also in German or different media outside New Zealand about this case, but the attention decreased naturally after the decision not to charge under the Terrorism Act. The investigation is still going on, though, and the possible sentences that might come out of this are quite hard. What is interesting in the context of New Zealand, that last week it became known that a police informant was revealed, was, uncovered, who had informed police about animal rights groups, environmental groups, unions, peace groups, and the Green Party. His reports include not only details about communication methods, but also phone numbers, demonstration plans, etc., but also information on sexual relationships, travel plans, or sources of income. This is not very surprising. I mean, we all probably assume that police are using informants in any kind of community that they consider of interest for whatever reason, so that's not really surprising, but I find it rather rare that it is possible to actually find out details about how this work is being done, and it's actually quite interesting how this was done. This person, who had been an informant for more than 10 years in the New Zealand activist communities, had his computer broken and asked his girlfriend, who's a computer programmer, to fix his computer. She found strange emails on his computer that he apparently didn't bother to hide very well, and installed some spyware on his phone to monitor his text messages and calls, and set a script on his computer to continue sending his emails to her. She even downloaded a year's worth of phone bills and decrypted documents he had encrypted, and as a result it became clear that he was communicating and working for the police. The similarity in this case to the case against Andre and the militant group in Germany is that in the beginning there was a huge public attention, and this is a similarity in many of these cases. As long as it is a terrorism case, and after the terrorism charge drops, people seem to think, okay, so now we are back to legal democratic law state kind of structures and everything is fine, but in fact investigations are still going on, but under a different paragraph of the Penal Code. This is from a demonstration from the support groups in New Zealand. Next, I would like to talk about the United States. In the United States, something is going on that is labeled the Green Scare, to describe legal actions of the US government against environmental and animal rights activists in the United States. The FBI calls them animal rights extremists and eco-terrorists. It's a term similar to what was used during the McCarthy era in the 50s, the Red Scare. The topic eco-terrorism appeared in 2002 in a hearing in Congress, the US Congress, and since 2000 there have been more than 20 cases of investigations and trials. Two groups are the main targets of the Green Scare, and they are the Animal Liberation Front, the ALF, and the Earth Liberation Front, the ELF. Their actions comprise what could be described as politically motivated property destruction, including large financial damage, e.g. arson to luxury villas seen as symbols of excessive consumerism, lumber companies, destructions of SUVs, releasing animals from fur farms, damage of, e.g. telephone towers and many other different things. The ELF, the Earth Liberation Front, was made the #1 of the domestic terrorist threat list by the FBI. I am quoting now. The #1 domestic terrorism threat is the eco-terrorism and animal rights movement. This is support from CNN. And we're not talking about Al-Qaeda here or Muslim fundamentalism. This is animal rights activists with doing a lot of damage. Some of the examples of cases that were put on trial here is a rather famous person. His name is Jeff Lures. He was convicted to 23 years of jail because he set 3 SUVs on fire. SUVs are these suburban vehicles, these huge cars that are now riding around everywhere that use a lot of gas and actually are not really a good example of environmental way of living. He did this, so he said, as a protest against excessive consumption and global warming in 2000 and 2001, when this was not yet a very prominent topic of debate. He was sentenced to 23 years of jail for this, and this was later reduced to 10 years. He is still in prison. Another example is what's called the Shack 7. They are 6 animal rights activists who were convicted in March of 2006 to 24 years in prison for, I'm quoting, using their website to incite hate, harassment, vandalism, and attacks against the company Huntington Life Sciences, who are running animal testing laboratories. In the words of their supporters on their website, they describe this as a website that reported on and expressed ideological support for protest activity against Huntington and its business affiliates. They were not accused of having been engaged in terrorist or threatening acts, but simply they were accused to conspire to promote terrorism. And for this are in prison, all of them, to 24 years. The law that is being used here mostly is a law that used to be called the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act and is now called the Animal Enterprise Protection Act, first introduced in 1992. Another example is what is called the Operation Backfire. This is an investigation run by the FBI, and they are actually calling this the Operation Backfire since 2004. The FBI, there's differing information also on the FBI websites, if you dare to go there. And my impression from this is that they have been looking for a group called The Family for 10 years. Initially because this group is said to have burned down the ski resort in Colorado, causing $26 million of damage. In some reports it says this caused $12 million of damage, either in 98 or 96. And the activists who are members of this said group are either members of the Earth Liberation Front and or the Animal Liberation Front. They are accused of having done up to 25 actions of either $48 million of damage or $80 million. That's again different information. Doing vandalism, property damage, animal releases, and arson. In 2004, local, state, and federal investigations were combined to this one investigation called the Operation Backfire. And I'm quoting again, the defendants are accused of attacks on federal land and animal management sites, private meat packing plants, lumber facilities, and a car dealership with damages here reaching $80 million. So far, 17 people were indicted, and in these indictments, in these trials, 15 pled guilty of their actions. And so far, the FBI is still looking for 4 people to be members of this group, and there is a $50,000 reward per person set out for any information leading to arrest of these people. Another case And that's not a picture to the case, just another illustrating some of the material that is being produced by the supporters of these cases. Another case is one that